Hi, this is Zach,
And this is Patrick,
and welcome to Pipecast.
where we pipe up for pipes and pipe down for what?
Happy International Pipe Smoking Day from crew at Pipecast.
Yeah,
Decided to do a special segment for you guys. A little bit rambly, maybe not have much in the way of the way we normally do it. Just kind of ramble on. Of course, maybe some of you are listening are like, "Don't you always ramble?" So, to those people, good. I'm glad you enjoyed just the ramble. You're not expecting anything else because this is what you're getting again.
Good old rambling. Happy smoking. So, before we get into it, I just wanted to say we got 2 or 3 shout outs. One shout out is to, let me see right here. Well, these first 2 are some Instagram fellow users who have reached out to us and offered their wisdom or their advice, and we really appreciate that. And it's Jay, and his username is jfurman631, and then Ernest Picasso, and he is at Picasso Ernest. Is his username, and both of them, like I said, have reached out to us and gave us some great feedback, and that's always wanted from us. We want to hear what you have to say. But then also a big shout out to Mike Murphy at Pipe and Tamper. He gave us a big shout out. He reposted our last or time before last Instagram post, and that was a real great thing he did. So kudos to him for doing that.
Yeah, it's always good to hear from the community, kind of get a little checks and balances on what we're doing, and maybe specifically what you all would like to hear. So, we really appreciate that because we're trying. It's all experimentation on our end, and we want to try to get as much covered in the time it takes to smoke a bowl. Today might be a little bit different. I'm smoking a smaller bowl, but I'm willing to go a second bowl, so it's not a big deal. So what are you smoking today?
Well, today's a very special day. It being International Pipe Smoking Day. This is actually a nice find from you.
Mm-hmm.
You found. Before I say it, why don't you tell them how you found it?
So, for those of you who are lucky enough to have a brick and mortar pipe shop that you go to, one that is geared towards pipes. Usually when you go to a tobacconist, or it ends up being just a cigar shop really, and the pipes are relegated to a few dusty shelves with a couple of tins just strewn about. But if you're lucky enough to have a shop that has a dedicated wing at least to pipes and pipe tobacco, you can get lucky. And the other day I was in there browsing, just shooting the breeze with a clerk and just going over some things. I'd seen a great couple of pipes that I was interested in getting, and I think a Les Woods pipe. And in the middle of that conversation, a tin caught my eye off a little ways, kind of in the corner, and I knew exactly what it was when I saw it. So I scooted on over there to it, and sure enough, it was McBaron's HH Vintage Syrian. Now they'd had it on this kind of sample block where it allowed their customers to come in and sample it, but they hadn't opened it yet, and it still had the price sticker on it. And I go, "Well, are you sampling this out?" And they go, "Well, we haven't opened it yet." And I was like, "Well, I'll buy it right here if you want," because you absolutely cannot find HH Syrian anywhere. As a matter of fact, trying to find Syrian Latakia is pretty much impossible. The last time I smoked a Syrian Latakia was in McClellan's Three Oaks, and as we all know, unfortunately, McClellan's is closed down, and I haven't quite had any Syrian Latakia since then. I think that's been 7 years ago for sure. Because even going back to a time when McClellan was established tobacco producer. Syrian Latakia is mythical now. It's gone. The Syrian conflict has pretty much eradicated all Latakia produced in that country, and for those unfortunate enough not to have tried it, it is a different version of Latakia that we're used to, which is the Cyprian out of Cyprus. I think it's a better, milder version of Latakia. I enjoy it a lot more. I do think that the difference is, the way, obviously the difference in the production. I do think that the Cyprian Latakia is smoked quite considerably more, maybe than the Cyprian. But it's just different. It really changes up everything for a Latakia based blend. So, when I saw that, it was a 3.5 ounce tin, which is a considerable amount. I immediately snatched it and said, I'll buy it right here, right now. How much, And they sold it to me. And I knew that, the odds of it being reminiscent to Three Oaks, which is a great blend. It's sad that blend doesn't exist anymore. It's sad that basically tons of McClellan blends don't exist. And I know majority of people are Frogmorton fans, or I love Balkan Blue and Three Oaks especially. But I wasn't expecting it to be Three Oaks, but I went home, I packed a pipe, I lit it up, and yeah, it's exactly kind of. I mean, it's not Three Oaks, okay? I can tell you that. It is definitely different, but the memory that it evoked of Three Oaks, and just the kind of the way the Syrian Latakia has that buttery finish. It's just, you just kind of just go into this, ecstasy, right? Where you get to try something that you haven't really touched and you never even thought you were going to touch again. I know for a fact that those tins are pretty much impossible to find. I think actually McBaron is out of Syrian Latakia, and now it is. I think that they've changed the line to just HH Latakia, the flake, which is a good flake. As a matter of fact, a lot of people consider it kind of a counter to Penzance. To me, it's reminiscent of Quiet Nights by GOPs. It's a fine flake. There's nothing wrong with it, but something about HH Syrian. It's completely different. It's buttery. It's got this nice finish. It lasts. The smoke is cool. It's just great. So, of course, the first thing I do when I get something like that or find something is I text my old compadre over here, Patrick, and wanted to see what he had to say about it as soon as I had the availability to let him smoke it. And today is that day.
That day, yes. And, coming from a completely different aspect, you were saying that you were thinking you'd never be able to smoke it again, where I was coming into it because I had heard of, of course I've heard of people talk about Syrian Latakia. So I was under the impression I would never get to smoke it. So, it probably should have hit me harder than it did. It's just, I never dwelled over the fact that I would never get a chance to smoke it. But now that I am, I mean, it is different. It is different because I smoked the HH Latakia flake that you had that one day, and yeah, I mean I can't really pin down the difference, but I mean, I am noticing it is cooler. It's a cooler smoke, but it's very nice. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I love that tobacco. It's and I think some people might be thinking that it's we're putting something on or they can't taste the difference, and I'm not trying to do that. I mean, I really do taste the difference. I do feel like it has a more buttery finish to it. The smoke is a little bit lighter. That woodsy taste, that campfire, taste that you get, and it's just got the most pleasant aftertaste. And the way HH Syrian works is it's about a 40 to 50% mixture of Syrian Latakia with the other half of the blend being Oriental and Virginia. And the Virginia has a sweetness that kind of washes away that buttery finish of the Syrian, and the Oriental's kind of acrid, almost sour notes, you know, twirl around with the Virginia and wash, like I said, wash away some of that, and then it comes back in, and you get that buttery taste, and then that kind of finish, and then you inhale again or puff again, retrohale, I should say, and you get that same sort of, ebb and flow of flavor between that sweet citrus sour and that buttery finish of the Syrian. I love it.
Mm. And so, to sort of, I guess in a weird twist of fate, I guess, I'm smoking something that you thought you'd never smoke again, and I thought I never would smoke, while today you're smoking something that, may not last much longer.
Yes.
One of your favorites.
Yeah, one of my favorite blends. I got a big old tin of Chelsea Morning, and I decided, why not just smoke just a ton of Chelsea Morning for International Pipe Smoking Day. It's definitely it's by far and away my favorite GLP's blend. I know a lot of people do a lot of comparisons to Westminster, and Westminster's a great blend as well. It's not Chelsea Morning, but it is a good blend. With the impending FDA regulation, there is a potential, since this was produced after 2007, that if it doesn't go through that process, that we might lose Chelsea Morning and the other London series, I think it's old London series, blends forever. So I got a big old 8-ounce tin because I was planning on just smoking as much as I can until, eventually she goes away. And yeah, that's my blend for the day. I mean, like I said, you just get a big old fat tin of it, and I'm just contented just to smoke and smoke and smoke this stuff, by the pound if I have to, I guess.
Oh man, Chelsea Morning is good. I like this being new in it. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around different things and what I think about certain blends, but I do know I like Chelsea Morning. It is nice. The only thing I know for certain, this far in, or this much into the game, is I like Haunted Bookshop. That's a guarantee.
The good news is Haunted Bookshop's not going anywhere.
Mm-mm. But yeah, man, it's like we said earlier, this is going to be more of a rambly one, so you may hear a lot of craziness you might not normally hear, or like you said earlier, it may just be what you're used to from us.
Right. Now, I have a shout out to a buddy, Matt, who actually had a request. He was asking about different material types and pipes, and I kind of wanted to go through that real quick, and then I can expound on it on a later episode. I think we might have pre-recorded this once upon a time, and that episode actually never came to fruition. Yeah. So I'm just going to kind of reiterate some of the finer points of different materials and pipes, and then we can kind of get into a more rambly kind of spiel. But there are 4 really major pipe types. So you've got corncob, clay, briar, and meerschaum. And I do go from the lowest to an ascending order. I do think at the top end would be your meerschaum, and I'll explain that in a second. Of course, everyone has their own categories. We're not going to discuss shape because I don't think shape is the aesthetics, people. Like anybody who argues with me about that, that shape or that the grain itself, or it's not going to make a difference in smokability. It's just pleasing to your eye. We're going to start with corn cob. So corn cob obviously is made from a corn cob. These plants, the corn cobs, were grown and bred in such a way that you have a lot more husk and a lot less seeds. So you have a little bit more of a wider bowl, so it doesn't cause burnout. To me, it's the perfect introductory material. 100%. The best way you should start pipe smoking is with corn cob pipe. You've got 2 options on that. They're both sort of, you can consider the corn cob the everyman, the American style, or really the blue collar pipe. but there are two that I know of off the top of my head. There's Missouri Meerschaum, which is pretty much the gold standard in corncob production and pipes. They're great pipes. You can't go wrong with them. They don't really ghost that much, but even if they did ghost a ton, they're so cheap you could devote basically a corncob to every single type of blend that you liked, and you wouldn't really be breaking the bank. To get a mid-grade, high-end corncob pipe is going to cost you $15. It's going to cost you $15 to get a pipe tobacco, and probably $3 for pipe cleaners and a tamp or a pipe tool and a check tool, depending on what you like. So, I mean, all in all, you're looking at, say, $35 to really get you into the hobby of smoking, and you can smoke those corn cobs pretty fair amount. The beginnings of some, well, I'll go into the second type. And then there's Old Dominion. It's a little bit more of a rustic type pipe, corncob pipe. It's the company I think is out of Pennsylvania. Don't quote me on that. They originally found that some of their cobs they're growing had a heritage all the way back to early corncob pipes. They don't have birch shanks and acrylic stems. They just have bamboo kind of stab stems that you stab into it. So they're all straight pipes. And you can get those bamboo replacements for those pipes. They're very plain. They don't have plaster de Paris on top of them to kind of like seal them in or anything like that. It's basically just a plain corn cob and just a bamboo stem. They smoke really well. I think both of them smoke just as good as the other, but I will go into the detail of those two different ones real quick. So Missouri Meerschaum, you're going to have, like I said, a birch shank. At the beginning, the downside is that as you're smoking and burning into that birch, it's going to give you kind of an acrid taste that you're not going to like. Bear down and smoke it all the way to the bottom of the bowl, because it will caramelize and cut out that taste, and then it'll leave kind of a charred note. I mean, there won't be a taste after that. You'll just smoke tobacco and it won't be a problem. So that's, one of those downsides to it. The Old Dominion really doesn't have the bamboo. Doesn't when you get to it and you burn through it, and you can taste it a little bit. It's not quite as pronounced as the birch, but it's there. I think the downside to both corncob companies is that if you smoke hot, you will burn through it. I've burnt through an Old Dominion pipe, and it'll burn right through the husk, and it'll come out to the other side. The good news is what are you out, like $10, $15? You're not particularly out a lot of money, so it's not the end of the world. So, I think that they're great starter pipes, and they're great for just tasting tobacco. I usually keep a corn cob on me at any given time, so when I go into a shop, I can taste whatever I want. So going from corn cob to clay. So clay's got kind of the same properties as the corn cob or meerschaum. It smokes super hot. They're usually formed. They're kind of a specialty novelty kind of item. Usually they are made in the old colonial style or English style, kind of like the pub style, very long stem that they'd clip off. I think they smoke extremely hot. That would be the only downside to them. But minus that, they're very fragile, but they don't ghost at all. It is just, you smoke, usually they're very, very minuscule bowl. I mean, it's very tiny. So almost, because it is done in the style of old colonial or old English, you're not going to get a hefty bowl. What you're really getting is sort of the poor man's smoke, which would be enough tobacco for really like a cigarette. And that's what you're doing. You're having a beer and you're smoking, and that's what they would have done. They're fun. They're great for tasting different types of tobacco blends. Another great one just to kind of keep on you. Like I said, you don't want to throw it in the back of your pocket. You will shatter them. They're very fragile, but they don't ghost. And over time, they will color a little bit. But more to me, they're less a reliable smoker and more so a novelty item. But I know people that swear by them, and I'm not going to knock them. But to me, they burn way too hot, and it sometimes the smoke itself kind of begins to taste very cigarette-y. So
Do they burn out?
No, they don't.
Oh,
because they're like kiln made, so you got to hit them at that high temperature to get them solidified, so they're not going to burn out at all.
Oh,
like you would, I guess maybe they could burn out like at 1,000 degrees, but I mean, that's what you're baking them at is like 600 or something degrees, I'm sure. So moving on to Briar. Briar is going to be probably your most expensive brand of pipes. I do keep it a peg below Meerschaum, and I'll get into that in a second. Briar pipes, it's Mediterranean briar. That is pretty much, it's like the gold standard of pipe tobacco. If you see someone with a pipe or even hear a pipe, the thing that's going to come to mind more than likely is unless you're in the rural United States, in which a corn cob comes to mind. But if you think of a pipe, if someone were to say a tobacco pipe, the first thing that's going to come to mind is a briar pipe. Usually has bird's eye or flame grain or straight grain. They're very beautiful. They come in quite a few shapes, and shapes that are still getting introduced into the catalog, be it like a reverse calabash or some of the Japanese style, like the whale and other shapes. Traditional English shapes like the billiard or Dublin, all that stuff's going to be kind of up to you as to what you want specifically. They smoke great. They do ghost. Usually I love briar pipes, but that's an addiction really. But what I do is I keep them categorized to blend type. So usually I will have some briar set aside for Virginia, briar set aside for vapor or vapor burley, or vapor, and then some briars set aside for Latakia and a Balkan blend. So I usually kind of keep them within that genre, so they're not ghosting too much. A Latakia or a Lakeland, especially like an aromatic, blend, it will stick around for a long time. You have to kind of clean the cake off and usually hit it with some scotch or bourbon and let it sit, or there's the salt treatment. Mm-hmm. There are some things you can do to kind of sweeten the bowl and make it kind of work again for you, but it will ghost. They are probably the most attractive looking pipes that you can get on the market. I don't think anybody has ever bought, specifically if they bought the one they wanted, they've never bought it, went home and said, I don't really care for that too much. They can look rustic and kind of worn, or they can be, really aristocratic looking and kind of high end. So, it's all up to the person purchasing it. I don't think I've ever seen a briar pipe that I really just didn't like. I didn't have kind of an attraction to. All briar to me is unique and attractive in its own way. And I think that's what makes them so universally loved. But they're great. They will burn out sometimes if you smoke super hot and really hard on them. They do need to be sort of retired and rotated, as you won't ruin the pipe, But if you smoke it and you rotate it out with some corn cobs or some other briars, if you have that kind of pocket change as you're building your collection, then they definitely can become an heirloom piece. You can consistently see old Dunhill or Sassini pipes on eBay that are from the 30s, 40s, 50s, or even the 60s. They can really be an heirloom piece, and they can be handed down. So, the briar is a more traditional, a more old school heirloom style piece of it's really sort of a piece of jewelry that you just happen to smoke out of. So, they can go the distance, they really can. So that kind of covers briar. And then finally, kind of the queen of tobacco material, in my opinion, are Meerschaum pipes. And Meerschaum, it comes from the German sea foam, and it was thought to be petrified sea foam. But it is actually magnesium silicate. It's a compressed mineral that you have to dig out. I think the majority of the best quality is actually out of Turkey, Eskişehir, I think. There are other kind of what would be considered lower grade material Meerschaum that comes out of Africa, but really the high end stuff comes out of Turkey. Meerschaum does not ghost. It is very porous. It has magnificent properties that allow you to have a cool, dry smoke just from the absorption of the tobacco juice and nicotine as you're smoking it. It is pretty much universally lauded as the best material to smoke a pipe out of. I do enjoy my briars, but I mean, if I really want to get a sense of what the tobacco tastes like without having other blends kind of muddying the waters, then I definitely want to go with a meerschaum pipe. Um, I have two meerschaum pipes, and really that's all you need. They do not need a resting period. All you have to do is smoke them, set them down, and then you can come back in an hour or two and smoke it again. It doesn't have to, I think the general rule is that you smoke a briar pipe and then for the day, and you let it rest for about 7 days. So that's why people have a pipe a day kind of rotation that they usually keep it on. So meerschaum is not the case. You can smoke anything in it. It really doesn't ghost at all. It also has the ability to tame certain kind of rambunctious tobaccos. I know that I enjoy smoking a Full Virginia Flake by Samuel Gallworth in it because it's kind of a little rougher around the edges blend, and it really does just meld well with that meerschaum pipe. Meerschaum, like I said, you can get it. It comes out of the ground sort of like a soapstone or a like a soft material that can be carved down. So you can buy it in different. Some of the master carvers will put faces on it or a floral design, Celtic crosses. But I mean, personally, I prefer a traditional kind of lattice work or a traditional bowl. Like I said, they are magnificent. And because of the porous nature of them, they will color over time. They will absorb the nicotine and actually bring it out to the surface. And once it gets to the surface, it will turn a honey, dark brown color. And it can even marble where it has bits of white and black and turn kind of almost have like a tile kind of look to it, where like or a marbled kind of tile look where it's different colors and it sort of blots all around. So definitely something you should look into. They are more reasonably priced than the higher end briars. High end briar can get up into the thousands, especially an artisan blend or an artisan made pipe. But meerschaum, you really shouldn't pay more than $300 for meerschaum, and that should be based on the size of the bowl or the size of the pipe and the amount of meerschaum. That should not be dependent on material. It's not going to change much. It just depends on like the artist who made it and the amount of meerschaum you've got from that particular block. So, like I said, I just wanted to kind of go through that. In my opinion, everyone should have a meerschaum pipe in their collection. You should definitely start with a corn cob. Clay to me is more of a novelty thing, and really briar is an addiction I recommend no one get into because you're gonna go broke quicker. But I mean, there are tons of really great workhorse briar pipes that are completely affordable. Shokum Peterson, Bootschaken, there's tons. I mean, you can even get estate pipes at or basket pipes even that can come in $15 to $20 range. So that's not to say that briar pipes are completely out of range for you, but I think everyone deserves a good sort of Christmas pipe of some sort that they smoke on special occasions, be it a briar. There really isn't such a thing for that as meerschaum. I think you could smoke meerschaum pretty much regularly. It doesn't have to be special, but that sort of covers material, and I wanted to make sure that we went over that.
Yeah, and I would say, of course, this isn't sort of like the guidelines, because the thing about smoking pipe tobacco, and it's not. I mean, it's whatever you want. It's a sharing experience, and it's however you want to do it, whatever brings you joy. But I would say it's almost beneficial, if you get into it, right? Because I think we've talked about this before. It's pipe smokers. There's really two different types of pipe smokers. It seems like with a sort of a hybrid. There's the people who like the pipes, the collection of the pipes, and then there's people who just love the tobacco. And of course, there's your hybrid ones, which I'm sure a lot of people are the hybrid. But but there still are some people who lean more. They like to collect the pipes and more that they like to try all the different types of blends. And it seems like if you're a starter, right, and you follow the Zach method of getting a corn cob, getting 1/10 of tobacco, or maybe like a sample 1 ounce from a brick and mortar store, and you're only in it for $30 or so. It seems like if you do that and you like it, but what you like more, is the pipe, then it seems like you'll start. It makes sense to go into the briar and start your collection up. But if it seems more that you want to try all the different tobaccos, and you really enjoy it, it seems like just go straight into Meerschaum. Get you a Meerschaum and just go. Don't spend any more money on. I mean, like I said, this isn't the end all be all rule. I'm just talking is all I'm doing. Get you a Meerschaum and just run through all the different tobaccos. I mean, just find what you like. And me, I'm too much of the hybrid. I like the pipes. I don't like the tobacco. So I don't have a Meerschaum. I probably will end up getting one one day, but I'm just sort of sorting through the briars right now. I have 4 briars, and none of them crazy. All affordable when it comes to briars. As far as briars go, affordable briars. Yeah, I mean, I think you covered it really well there. So if you are a beginner, you can learn a lot from Zach.
Well, I think that there is something to be said for just smoking or finding the blends that you want, and if you could find 4 or 5 blends that you wanted in a regular rotation, and then you were content. One, I'm envious of you because I am always chasing the tail of the smoke, man. I swear. But man, if you can cull it down to 5 tobaccos, then 100% start collecting briar then. Because you can dedicate pipes to just 5 different blends and then have a couple of corn cobs or Meerschaum just to smoke whenever, just kind of out about. But I mean that would be like choice if you could just pick the 5 blends and you never really wanted to change, and then if one got discontinued or something, you just add something else into your rotation, and you would probably know how to effectively do that.
Yeah. And see, that's my end game really is. 2019 is like the year of figuring out what blends I like more than others, and then inside of those blend types, figuring out what is my favorite actual blend. And I think that's a sort of a good segue into something that we're trying to determine, getting ready for March Madness. We this year we're wanting to try to figure out what's the best vapor and what's the best English blend. And so whenever you're listening to this, if you'll follow the link on the Instagram page, it'll take you to a site, and at the very top it'll say Pipecast, but then underneath that it'll say Vote in Tobracketology 2019. And it's just simply asking, it'll start with the vapors. We got a list of the top rated, reviewed vapors from tobaccoreviews.com. And just, try to pick, your 5 favorite ones. If you have 10 favorite ones, it don't matter. Or if there's just one that you think is the best, it don't matter how you do it. Just if you'd like to, select your favorite vapor, do that, and then underneath that's your favorite English, and do the same and submit that on, and we're probably going to take the top 4 of each and sort of work them down, battling each other out, and then from there, we'll take over and try to determine which one's the best, and then pit the winners against each other. Is the best vapor according to us better than the best English, according to us, and so sort of to tie that all up, the reasoning behind this is, I know for me, is getting into the pipe game at this time. With a lot of companies, like McClellan folding up and not making any more tobacco, Dunhill not making any more, some of people's favorite GLPs and other ones that are facing the FDA deeming regulations. It's one of those periods where you sort of want to know what is comparable to what, at least for me. And people talk about like Elizabethan early morning pipe. Here, this vintage Syrian, like people talk about them, and it's nice to be able. Now, granted, you can't do a vintage Syrian, of course, but it's nice to be able to know, what's comparable. What's comparable to Penzance? What's the closest thing to Penzance? Because the esotericas are up there too. The pipes that are harder to find, the more rare pipes. So that's sort of what the goal of all this to bracketology is. And next year we'll probably do other blends like Burleys and or Burley based and maybe aromatics. But yeah, it's just for me, it's to be able to say, hey, I may not have ever had Dunhill Nightcap, but this is something that's similar. Or hey, I can't get my hands on Margate, but this is close,
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like I said, I'd like to be able to narrow down the types of blends that I like. What's my favorite vapor? What's my favorite vapor? And just stick to those. That's sort of what I want to get to. Because I already do that a little bit in a way as far as my briars go. I got briars dedicated to certain things, and I got the old little stumpy boy that he just smokes anything.
The thing is like, we don't want you to just know that tobacco tasting in general will always be subjective,
yes.
and it should never close out your pursuit. But if there's a way that we can assist in showing you something similar to tobaccos that might have a kinship, I will just go out on a limb real quick and say that HH Syrian or Syrian Latakia in particular, because of its light nature, that a Cyprian blend of Latakia on the lighter side, I'm going to specifically call out Chelsea Morning, is going to be reminiscent of HH Syrian. The reason for that is because the Cyprian Latakia in a smaller quantity is subdued in the same way that Syrian Latakia is subdued, even if at 40 to 50% within the blend.
Yes.
If you wanted to try something that was similar in its aroma and taste to HH Syrian, vintage Syrian, I would recommend Chelsea Morning. Why? Because the lighter amount of Latakia, Cyprian Latakia, will allow you to still have that slight buttery taste, but really put the Oriental and the Virginia on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that being able to identify and show, hey, this is going to be like this and this is going to be like this. Granted, this is our opinion, could help people as they're trying to lead in. And I think that really becomes a community effort if people start voting and actively engaging with us on this Pipecast, and also limits so much subjectivity as most people do in the YouTube pipe community, where they just do their top 10 for 2019. I would like it that you guys assisted us in getting a bracketed tobacco off, and then eventually a head-to-head between vapor versus English. Very similar to like the way the dog show is. You have your specific dog categories, and then the dogs go head-to-head, and then eventually you have best in show.
Yes.
I think that's kind of like what we're really looking at here as far as this tobacco bracketology. There you go.
Now this sort of dawned on me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if a new pipe smoker or even a experienced pipe smoker who maybe has never had Syrian, I think probably, you said it's 40 to 50%, right, in this vintage Syrian?
Right.
A good, if you can get your hands on it, a good way to tell the difference, to tell the difference between Syrian Latakia and Cyprian would be to smoke vintage Syrian against Star of the East.
Yeah.
or maybe even Commonwealth.
If they can get their hands on the Syrian.
Yeah, because Star of the East is 50% Cyprian, and then I don't know if it's the same. I'd have to check. I don't know if the other 50 is the same as what's in Vintage Syrian.
I know Commonwealth is 50% Latakia, Cyprian, and 50% Virginia.
Okay, so it's just. I want to say Star of the East has maybe Perique with it, maybe a pinch of Perique. Maybe it doesn't.
Maybe.
I don't know. Well, I'll have to get back. But I think that would be a pretty good way to you can smoke one and smoke the other and be like, okay, well, this is the difference between 50% Syrian and 50% Cyprian. But yeah, that would be an option.
So that's something that we would like you guys to participate in.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
I said, the surveys are open now. How long do you think we're going to leave those open for?
I would say maybe at the second week of March.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe give y'all 2 to 3 weeks to vote, and then we'll be able to create the bracket itself from the top winner or the winners.
Perfect. And we might actually post that on Reddit or something too, to get some of the tobacco community and on Reddit kind of a little bit more involved. See if we can get some more people, voting and trying to get this head to head to go forward. And I think this is something interesting that we can do year to year.
Oh yeah, and when newer blends hit the market, which I know that's probably not going to be the case until we sort this FDA stuff out. That's something. One of the questions is when we get to that point, how many new blends are going to hit the market?
Right.
Are we going to hit a time frame for a decade or so where there's no new blends ever? It's just what's been made, and if that is the case, then maybe this tobaccotology will help people like me who just want to find one that's their favorite, stick with it, because that might be the only thing you can get.
Yeah.
But switching gears a little bit, I'll talk about a couple weekends ago. I went up to Mammoth Cave National Park in just outside of Cave City, Kentucky. Halfway between Bowling Green and Elizabethtown. And me and my girlfriend, we're pretty big hikers, I guess. We went on a trip last September to the Northwest. We went to Seattle, and we pretty much just spent a week, 8 or 9 days, camping in the 3 national parks that are in the Seattle area: Olympic National Park, Mount Rainier National Park, and North Cascade National Park. And that's just something we enjoy doing. And really, she got me into it. She was big into that kind of stuff. She's got one of those national park passports. She got several stamps in that. So we went up to Mammoth Cave, and I'll tell you that as much as I loved Mount Rainier, and if anybody out there who is in that area or has been there, they know the splendor of Mount Rainier. I gotta say, I'm a big fan of the cave. I didn't know it, but it's the largest cave system in the world. I think they've discovered a little over 400 miles of cave, and they're still discovering more and more each year. And man, it was a workout too. I'll tell you that. We went on. It's all tour guided. I think they do have some trails that you can do above ground, but as far as getting into the cave, I think it's all tour based. And we did 2 tours. There's the historic tour where you go in through the historic entrance of the cave, and then there's the new entrance, which was it's a little bit further out. And I tell you what, those 2 tours they put a whooping on me. Because it's like you're going down this tight stairwell that's rickety, and you're having to dodge rocks sticking out of the wall. as you're trying to get down the steps, and it's at the entrances, it's all wet and slippery. But once you get in there, I mean, it's called Mammoth not because of dinosaurs. I think they've said that there has been no dinosaur bones found in that area, which was pretty unique. But it's Mammoth because of the size of the caves. They're huge. There's this one area, I think it's the first big part you get to in the historic entrance that you could fit a basketball gymnasium in that thing. I mean, it's massive, and it's just really, really crazy. You get in there and you walk through these massive hallways, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in what they call Fat Man's Misery. And I think if anybody's in that area and you haven't gone there, yeah, I mean, you should go. And if you have gone there, go again. The place is awesome. Yeah. If you're into that kind of stuff. But that's a lot of stuff I like to do. Now, I know you, this past weekend, you went on a little trip.
Yeah, I went to Savannah, Georgia. And let me tell you guys, I'm about to alienate a whole bunch of people. So just y'all get ready to be in disagreement. Savannah is the most overrated just town in the U.S. if you're raised in the South. If you think that is fanciful or magical, get your head examined, because it is just a waste of time. Like, any southern city that was established in 1810, 1811 through 1860 is going to have that same antebellum style, that same quaint, just boring. I just can't imagine going to a place and just being like, oh, the architecture and everything is just I can't remember, my buddy said it's the South, but more South. And it's just so ridiculous to go to this place and to just be like, you know what I like to do? I like to just see boring ass squares and just walk around and just like, I'm so mesmerized by Spanish moss. It's so magical. This nasty swampland crap growing out of trees. I just can't handle it. No. And then they're like, hey, why don't you come over here to my country time kitchen, in which I serve fried chicken and mashed potatoes and everything that I could totally get at KFC. I went to Paula Deen's terrible restaurant, and it's just like, hey, y'all want some buffet? No, I don't. Like, I don't want buffet. I don't want your fried chicken that anyone from my hometown can make a bajillion times better. The place isn't, I mean, like, it's embarrassing that people just go gaga over it. I just don't get it. I don't understand how, like, I read Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil and saw the film with Kevin Spacey where he puts on the most ridiculous Southern accent that doesn't exist anywhere.
Which is funny because he used that for House of Cards.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean,
it's that foghorn leghorn old South before Sherman burned down Atlanta terrible accent. Like, it's just, oh God. And everyone's got this just like that Jim boy over there went and shot some old country boy or whatever. It's just so ridiculous. I can't even do it because it's so fake. It's such a put on. And then everyone has like some pithy response to everything that no one does in the South, where it's just like, God, what is it? It's just like, why don't y'all come on up for some sweet tea? It's just hotter than a hot cicada night in the summertime of July. Oh my God. Or it's just, she sparkled like a firefly inside a mason jar on top of the whippoorwill in a creek side. Just kill yourself.
Hey, now, I do a lot of that.
You do an accent that is a put on. You don't actually speak that way. I've never heard anyone just like, I don't understand how the South became such a caricature of itself from a time in the summer. It's like everyone watched Gone with the Wind and no one remembered how Southerners even behave, even in the South. It's like no one read William Faulkner in Southern Gothic and like, Reconstruction after the Civil War and how horrific that was, or it's just this like this King Cotton put on, this facade.
It's funny because I think it all is based on tourism, especially for people not from the South. It's sort of funny. It's like, oh yeah, we hate the South, they're racist, but dang, I love that accent.
It's not even a real accent.
No, that's not. But
if you come to the South and you deal with someone moderately educated, they're gonna. I would say that we're fine.
I think
you're probably going to hear. This is the way what you're going to hear.
Yeah, I mean,
you're going to hear this, or you're going to hear like something that it's pretty much universally trashy. That is not uncommon to New York or California. It's just like, yeah, boy, like, you come on over here. Yeah, man, I mean, she said, we couldn't be girlfriend, boyfriend no more, but hell, she said we could stay cousins.
Oh,
that is what you're going to be hearing.
Yeah, I mean, you might even, hear a little bit of that road tag kind of talk like that, But
just something, Sling Blade is probably the closest you're going to get to an actual Southern accent that you can hear. But you're not going to hear like that I don't even know what it is. It's just that genteel Southern.
Yeah.
Like, I only think of it in terms of like someone who's a colonel. Like, like he smelled of leather and bourbon and just, it's so ridiculous. Like,
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, just anything. Like, no, Tommy Lee Jones is a Texan.
Yeah, you're right.
And he has that Texan accent. I'm talking about that.
That's right.
Gone with the Wind.
You're right.
Crap.
Now, what would you categorize Clinton?
Clinton?
Yeah.
Clinton's white trash.
Well, I know some of his accent.
Yeah, he's white trash.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. It's funny, you go back and hear Hillary, how her accent, she slowly covered it up.
It's because she slowly migrated to New York.
Yeah. But
that's what happens. Politicians are liars. They're either through and through trash, like Clinton is, like white trash, and that is his accent, or they're chameleon liars. And this isn't like a knock on necessarily Bill or Hillary, I got my opinions on a lot of politicians, but I mean, politicians in general, they typically are chameleons, and they're going to pander to the lowest common denominator. That's why, I can't, I'm not having to bash Hillary. I'm sorry, guys, but like that's why she went on a show and she's just like, yeah, I keep hot sauce in my purse. It's like, no, you don't, you liar.
No.
There's a ton of examples of this chameleon kind of pandering shenanigans. Yeah. It's a lie. It's a put on. Her accent is as Southern as, it's just a put on. It's a lie. What's
funny is, sort of on the same subject, but harkening back to that trip we took to Seattle. So what was funny is, people would talk to me and they're like, oh yeah, we could tell you had an accent. I'm like, yeah, I could make it a lot worse. That's what sort of made me question it. Like, this isn't the worst that you can possibly hear. But getting back to Savannah, I haven't been in probably over a decade. But I will tell you this. I'm sure it hadn't changed that much in a decade.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, maybe it has. But I guess what I was going to say is, if it's the way it was when I went, to me it would be a cool place to live, I guess. Just because I love being able to sort of be in the country, but like to walk around everywhere. I don't like to be dependent on cars, and the South is the worst place to be if you don't want to be dependent on cars. But I would say I'm sort of with you. I don't understand the tourist side of it all. That doesn't really make sense. Why you would want to take time out of your day to go there? Mm-hmm. But again, I wouldn't mind living there.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like urban planning goes as far as $1.3 million homes, and what I mean by that is like, you say you love to ride a bicycle, you say you love to walk, right?
Yeah.
But if you're working in Savannah, the odds are that you're a dock worker or something like that. I think they have like one of the largest what do they call those things? I guess docks or piers or importing
Harbor?
Port. Thank you.
Oh.
They have the largest port, I think, on the eastern seaboard.
Oh, I know that.
So, you're probably going to be a dock worker, which means you're going to have a car to get to the dock or the port, which means you're going to have to live on the outskirts. And, you drive through Savannah in 10 minutes or so, and then once you get to the outskirts, urban decay sets in again, and you're right back into the car thing. So, like, even the most picturesque place in the world, like Forsyth Park or whatever, is as good as a 10-minute drive.
Yeah.
In which it's rusty, decayed, like tidal, loan shark places, just awfulness, you know? So it's just like, but like people have their blinders on so heavily, they're only like, Savannah, it's just like, hey y'all, like, won't you come in for some sweet tea? Like, ugh. It's like, no, that only exists in this specific area. You go out to like, Rincon or something like that, and you're just going to be like in any Nick City that, is dependent on the tourism of its neighboring town.
Yeah. And it's, sort of getting in on that. Talk about, being able to walk everywhere. I sort of go back and forth between, hold on 1 second. My mic is all messed up here. Okay. Segueing into that, I sort of go back and forth between wanting to live somewhere where I can walk everywhere, and then also having like acreage with like woods. And it was funny. I was telling you about it the other day about how, like with the Gilmore Girls, it's like they sort of live out in the country, but then they still seem to walk everywhere when it comes to the town itself.
Yeah, but that's the problem with those shows. Is like those shows are, in my opinion, more fantastical than Game of Thrones. Like, any sitcom that's set in New York is going to have to be relatable because the characters are broke, typically, right?
Yeah.
And two or three broke characters living in an apartment in New York that's huge, where everyone has a room and there's multiple baths and... all of them work at like some crappy job. It's just like dragons are absolutely more believable. I can't get behind shows like that. It's just too fantastical for me.
Yeah, so and I mean, and you're right. I never thought about it before, but it's like, yeah, I mean, you can't live out in the country and be able to walk everywhere. You can't live in an apartment with 5 people and don't have a job, and have an apartment like that. Friends, How I Met Your Mother, stuff like that.
Right.
At least Seinfeld seemed remotely real.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone had legitimate adult jobs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then, yeah, I mean, you're right. But I'd love to have some. I'd love to have some acreage. But a couple months ago, maybe, I think it was probably the summertime. You and me read Mortal Engines, the first book in the quartet, and really seemed to like it. It worked well. I believe he said it was meant to be a little bit more political, but then they made it like a YA, a young adult book, so they took it out, and I think it benefited from it.
No, they cut out all the. I mean, I guess sometimes like the adult detailing of like the political systems within a city that is, I guess, movable. Is essentially a gigantic car. Probably you sort of lose your audience just a little bit. It becomes a little bit more niche when you can, you make the story a little bit more fantastical and kind of collect on a larger audience or a bigger audience at large, at least.
Yeah.
But it was good. I mean, like it was well done. I didn't have any problems with it.
Yeah, it was a really good book, and I finally got around to watching the movie, which it seems A lot of people didn't like it. I
Really?
don't think so. I don't think it got really good reviews, and
Hmm.
I don't think a lot of people went to see it.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought it did the book well. It just maybe a little bit of the execution of it. I think there were some changes in it. Granted, I mean, I can't remember every detail from the book, but I want to say, hey, you may remember, and I mean, spoilers if anybody don't want to know this. Just skip ahead about 5 minutes or so, or 2 minutes. But she didn't, the Hester Shaw, right?
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't raised by Strike, was she? Or whatever his name was?
Yeah, she was.
She was?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Maybe I just forgot that part.
Strike found her.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
Shrike. Yeah.
I can't remember between it and Hyperion.
Right. His English name is Shrike, like for the English novel.
Yeah. Oh.
And then the American version took out Shrike and renamed it
Strike.
Strike. Yeah. Or
And
something like that.
yeah, I think it's Strike. That's what it is in the movie, Strike.
Okay, so that's the American version. The English version is Shrike.
Did they do it in America because of Hyperion?
Yes, I think so.
Is Hyperion an American novel?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So, what was I going with that? So yeah, but like she had, after her face laceration, she washed up where Strike was at, and he took her in.
Okay, well then I don't think they changed anything from the book then.
Hmm.
Yeah, but no, it was good. It probably could have been better.
They always can be.
I think if Peter Jackson had done the directing instead of just like producing it or whatever he did, I think it could have been better, or maybe it benefited from him not.
Hmm.
I mean, I like Peter Jackson.
At a certain point, like I guess if you make something as, I suppose, as profound as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, then basically you don't have to do. I mean, he's now the modern day George Lucas.
Yeah.
He doesn't direct that much.
I mean, the last thing he did wasn't even directing. He just did he restored those World War One footage, and put color on it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I watched that, and then I watched a movie that I feel is a lot better. I don't think I haven't read the book of this movie, but A House with the Clock in Its Walls, or The House with a Clock in Its Walls. I watched that over the weekend, and man, I love that movie. That was really good.
Yes, I saw it too. It's
that's weird
for a children's movie. It's a great movie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's. I mean, I don't think that you definitely can enjoy any type of film, regardless if it's catered to kids or not. But like, I have a tendency not to like children's movie, and this was one that my wife wanted to watch, and I wanted to watch. I like Jack Black, and yeah, it's really entertaining. And the guy who directed it, Eli Roth, he's actually kind of an extreme horror director. He did like Hostel and The Green Inferno, and some really, really rough films. And I think adding in that horror element, like a legitimate horror element to it, really made the film that much better.
Yeah, what was really interesting is like my girlfriend doesn't like horror at all. She can't even watch Stranger Things because of the music. And I thought it was going to get her, because I watched it without her, and then I rewatched it with her, and I thought that might be one of the things that sort of, she wouldn't like about it, because we also, she hasn't seen that many movies. Backstory: she's from Vietnam. She came over in 2010, I believe, 8 or 10. So there's a lot of movies, that she hasn't seen. I know I showed her Jurassic Park, the first 2 Terminators. She enjoyed those a lot. But horror movies, that's sort of where she draws the line. I actually was rewatching the 2018 Halloween movie, and she came home and basically just said, "I'm not watching that." It made me cut it off. But earlier in the weekend, we watched The Mummy. I just threw it on. I just was like, you know what? Not the Tom Cruise, the Brendan Fraser. Put it on because I saw it on Netflix. I'm like, I hadn't seen this in a long time. Something had made me think about it prior to that. So turned it on and just started watching it, and she liked it, but she said it was a little too scary for her taste. It was almost borderline too scary, which got me thinking. It is very much sort of like a Indiana Jones meets horror kind of movie. The way they approach that movie, but yeah. So with that little horror aspect of a house or the house with a clock on its wall, I think you're right. It was good. It was a good addition to that. Mm-hmm. I like Jack Black a lot. I love Kate Blanchett. I think they did a wonderful job.
I didn't actually know Kate Blanchett was Australian. I thought she was British.
I did too. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, there's a whole new wave of Australian actors that came us overseas in the early 2000s, if you think about it.
And not just actors.
The Hemsworth, Ledgers, blah, 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 blah.
And then, what's her name? Margot Robbie. Mm-hmm. And then, and Nicole Kidman. Mm-hmm. Keith Urban. Not an actor, but an artist or a musician.
And husband to Nicole Kidman. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Speaking of Brendan Fraser, I watched, there's a new show on that DC Universe streaming service. Mm-hmm.
You got that?
No. Well, somebody else does, and I watched it via theirs.
Theft.
Well, hey, they pay for it.
Okay.
It's like having multiple profiles on a Netflix, right?
No.
So yeah, I watched Doom Patrol. Have you seen that?
No.
Have you heard of that?
I know the comic.
Okay. Well, so there's a new show that they're doing, and I first saw it because I saw an ad on Instagram for it, and it seemed very like. It looked like they were going for that Guardians of the Galaxy kind of vibe, but it looked pretty rough. Like the costumes didn't look that good. It just looked weird. It was a cool ad. It just looked like it was going to be rough. But basically, this version of the show on the ad that I saw has Crazy Jane. I think her name's Elastigirl or Elastigwoman. Invisible Man, maybe is his name. Cyborg and Robot Man. And I watched the first episode of the pilot last night, and Brendan Fraser plays the Robot Man. And I was really happy when I saw that.
Brendan Fraser, man, what a great talent that is wasted.
Yeah.
Because Hollywood really never went full stock with him, it seemed like. He's
like the Nickelback of Hollywood actors. Like, he got big real hot, real quick, and people got tired of him.
Hooker, did you say Brendan Fraser was like Nickelback? No, man. That's a gold standard of 90s acting right there.
Okay, I'll preface this by saying, coming from my perspective, that I didn't think Nickelback was as bad as people make them out to be.
No, they're that terrible, but Brendan Fraser is awesome.
Okay, to someone who likes Nickelback, I don't want that shame on my name.
Yeah, tread lightly, Chief, because you're starting to get into some unmarked territory.
I like old Nickelback, like before. What was that album where every freaking one was on the top 40? Was it All the Right Reasons or some crap? Whatever album had Photograph on it, that was their downfall. That's where it hit them. Because it was garbage, and they kept playing it on the radio. Every one of those songs they played on the radio. But before that, Too Bad. Too Bad is a great song. I love that song. And then the How You Remind Me song, that just takes me back to my childhood. I don't know if it's that good of a song, but it takes me back to my childhood. And there's one more. It's How You Remind Me, and then there's, I don't know what it's called. It's another song, but they had some good older stuff.
I'm still upset that you compared Brendan Fraser to Nickelback.
Okay.
This is the.
I'm
not going down this road
Oh,
with you. I think we've already kind of like set lines in the sand.
No, okay. Okay, hold on now.
Did you watch The Mummy?
Yes, and it was fabulous, except for
Whoa.
wrong side of the river. That was ridiculous.
Man, that's an American treasure. You need to back off.
Okay.
Start to get upset.
No, hey.
If there's not another episode of Podcast,
you'll know it's Brendan Fraser's fault.
Patrick has laid in fissures into our friendship all of a sudden.
I will have to create a different analogy. But, again, for someone who thinks the way I do, that Nickelback wasn't all that bad, they got bad, and then it was just a cool thing to do to hate on them, Brendan Fraser fits that bill. He got hot real quick. He may have got into some movies that wasn't so good, and then Hollywood dropped his ass.
Well, they did drop him, and it's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame.
But, hey, I'll say this to Nickelback. You talk about upsetting people earlier. If you guys didn't like the Savannah thing, turn off now because I'm about to upset you.
Oh, no.
Hardcore. All right?
Oh, no.
Here we go. If you don't like Nickelback, but you love Nirvana, then you're a hypocrite. Because that is essentially the same band. Like, Nirvana birthed that movement.
People are shutting this podcast off as we speak.
That's fine. That's good. Good. I don't want, because deep down, the reason they shut it off, if you turned off the podcast, obviously you're not listening anymore, but if you happen to come back and be like, I wonder what else he had to say. Did he round off this conversation? Well, here it is. It's an indictment on you and your life and your hypocrisy. All right? If you can't come to terms with the fact that Nirvana spun off Nickelback, I can't do nothing for you, Chief. I can't do anything for you. Like, absolutely. And the reason you so quickly turned it off, just like if you were Spike a controller because you lost a video game, is because deep down, it pierced your heart.
Deep down, you know he's right.
Yeah, I'm right. It's okay. It's okay. It's tough. I've been in situations where someone says something hurtful to me through proxy because they told me a truth and it pierced my heart.
Oh, sort of like what I did with Brendan Fraser and Nickelback.
No. You're just absolutely wrong. Brendan Fraser's man's a gift.
I will say this isn't as bad as what you said, or it might be as bad as what you just said. I don't think it is, but if anybody asks me my opinion on Nirvana, it's always Foo Fighters are better. And that usually gets some strange looks. Maybe some fisticuffs.
It would be interesting to see where Nirvana would have went if Kurt Cobain hadn't ended his life.
Yeah, it would have been. Because I wonder if they would have got Foo Fighter-ish. You know what I'm saying?
It'd be interesting to see if they developed beyond like what they were doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I mean, we only had like a section of time, and they really only had like the one sound, you know?
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to see if, you know, they develop beyond grunge.
What's funny is I used to not be like, I was indifferent to them. I liked, you know, some of their stuff, but I wouldn't listen to them all the time. Then I moved to Birmingham for a little while, and there was a new radio station that hit around the time I was down there. And every time I turned that radio station on, they were playing a Nickelback song. I mean, a Nirvana song.
Same thing.
Yeah, there you go. And it just got so tiring. I was just like, come on.
I can hear the universal groans of Gen X right now. Just,
Man, it was, I don't know. Well, okay. We'll get back to this. But back to Doom Patrol. It was a pretty good little pilot there. Like I said, it had a lot of things I like in it because, like I said, Brendan Fraser, I mean, I like him. He's playing Robot Man. He's a NASCAR driver. And he has a wreck or whatever, and that's sort of, you'll find out if you watch the show, but, you know, he becomes Robot Man. The only thing they could save was his brain. Okay. If Brendan Fraser didn't sell you, okay, the next is like, okay, so like, they talk about the cherry on top.
Mm-hmm.
So Brendan Fraser's ice cream, the little cream or the whipped cream on top of the ice
Right.
cream is what's his face, Alan Tudyk.
Mm-hmm.
He's Mr. Nobody in it, but then the cherry on top
Mm-hmm.
is that Chief, basically the Professor X of Doom Patrol, is Timothy Dalton.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh.
And I did not realize that until the show started, and it said, special appearance, whatever, Timothy Dalton, and then I saw it, I'm like, oh my god.
Oh, man, they got like all kinds of like heavy hitters. They've got a Firefly, a Mummy, and a Bond connection.
Yeah, and and since it's on their own like streaming service, like they're cussing up a storm. Boobs were shown in it.
Huh.
Like it's crazy, but yeah, it's pretty good. It is really good. Don't let me sell it short.
Is it every episode or you gotta wait?
I think they've only released the pilot.
Mm.
So that's the only one I was able to see. They leave you on a cliffhanger on the pilot too. But
What about other things on the? Is there any other stuff out there?
on that DC stuff,
Mm-hmm.
well, they got have like old movies and stuff, and the only other original thing they have is that Titans, which I have not watched.
But they have a bunch of old like Batman movies and stuff.
I think so.
Hmm.
I think they have the old Superman movie.
Interesting.
And the old animation. But I would definitely, if you have a way to check out Doom Patrol, I would, because it was pretty cool thing. But so if you're still listening after all the crap you've heard, if you are a resident of Savannah who likes Nirvana and hates Nickelback
And voted for Clinton.
we're sorry.
Terribly sorry.
Terribly sorry. But it's our opinion. That's what we're going to stick with.
Technically, we didn't do anything. We were just using examples that the Clintons had. Savannah does suck, though, so sorry about that. If you live there, I'm sorry. You should probably move. Move to a real town.
Like Florence, Alabama.
No.
Backstory here. Zach and I, Zach is from Florence proper.
Florence proper.
I am from the same county, basically like a suburb outside of Florence, a little town. And Zach, there was a 5-year difference between us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So half a decade gap. And he does not view Florence fondly.
Mm-mm.
However, I definitely am not I'm not a proponent of Florence, but I'm a defender of Florence, I guess. Because I don't think it's as bad as he says it is.
Florence to me is if like Stephen King made a scarier version of Derry, a bleaker, eviler version, then you get Florence. Like, it's a terrible town. Like, it's just awful. If I had a wish, it'd be to raise William Tecumseh Sherman from the grave and have him remarch and burn down that city.
Oh my God.
On his way to Atlanta. And then he'd just go ahead and burn down Savannah too, since basically Florence is, if you put Florence on steroids, you'd get Savannah. Add a couple more squares. And a stupid island.
Yeah, so if Pipecast doesn't make it past this episode, it has nothing to do with my Nickelback comment. It has more to do with the fact that you have just basically desecrated two beloved southern cities.
Beloved. No one knows about Florence. Like, literally,
That's what's the beauty
what's
of
that
it.
at?
That's the beauty of it.
What's the beauty of it?
Nobody knows about Florence, so they don't have the tourism that Savannah does. But the same charm. They're just not close to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
We have a river instead.
A singing river.
Oh my God. Yeah, so supposedly, dadgummit, if you ever watched, there's a documentary that came out called, what was it called? Shoals?
Muscle Shoals?
Was it called Muscle Shoals?
The music one?
Yes.
Yes, it's called Muscle Shoals.
Okay, well, if you ever walk, Florence is north of Muscle Shoals across the Tennessee River. And actually, it's a little frustrating that the show was called Muscle Shoals when it's based around Fame Recording Studio, which is an acronym for Florence, Alabama Music Enterprises. But no, they didn't want to tell you that. Because originally it was in Florence and they moved it. Whatever. They sort of touched on the fact that the Native Americans from the area called the Tennessee River the Singing River because apparently it sang. And then, unfortunately, they built a bridge and named it the Singing River Bridge.
It used to be the Patton Island Bridge.
Well, I don't think it was ever. I think it was
basically. Here's the way it was.
It was not officially the Patton Island Bridge.
Everyone called it the New Bridge,
or the Bridge to Nowhere. I'd heard that before when it was being built because it technically didn't go anywhere
at the time. Yeah,
it just connected Hilton to whatever street that is. The street of Muscle Shoals. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, you said what? Weren't you about to start a story or something?
About what?
I don't know. You said they called it the New Bridge, and then what?
Well, I just said the locals called it the New Bridge, and they probably still call it the New Bridge because it's the newest bridge in the city. And then eventually it sort of evolved into the Patton Island Bridge, and then I think they either renamed it or officially named it to the Singing River Bridge.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe it was officially Patton Island, but I was thinking that it was just like, that was just sort of like the unofficial, and then when they finally put up the sign, it said Singing River.
Mm.
But okay, don't let Zach sell the city short. It is worth visiting. It's a nice little place.
I described it to someone, and they go, wow, you make it sound like every 27 years a clown comes up and takes children back down to the sewer to feast. And I was like, Florence would be so lucky to have something that quaint.
Oh, my God.
It's more like an elder god is underneath, sucking the city out year after year after year. And all you see is urban decay as far as the eye can see. People who live in places that you assume if you walked into, you'd find them at the end of a noose. But no, somehow they just keep going on as if like just living in the town makes them these timeless creatures of old. Their heart pumps for no apparent reason whatsoever. The clocks of time just keep on ticking. And even though you think that the whole place should be burned or flooded or pushed off in some old biblical way, it's not. Because for some reason, it can't even be seen by the eyes of God. Anyway, that's my take on it. So, yeah.
Dang. Well, I can't put it as poetically as that. But it's not that bad.
Oh,
it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. No,
Well,
it really is.
I mean,
it's okay.
Our parents still live there. So. Well, granted. Well, hold on now. Let me be more specific. Your parents still live there.
Indeed, they do.
My parents live in a little German town, just on the outskirts. Basically, still is the town, but you know, it has its own town hall and everything. Saint Florine, the patron saint of firefighters. Granted, I am Irish, so my family is just one little Irish household and a bunch of Germans and Polacks. What?
Nothing. Nothing. I don't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Bought the house from some Zermacs. Live next to Cashmire's. It's not. If I was going to move back to Florence, I would definitely move to St. Florine.
I thought you were a Killen guy, though, for some reason.
I was born. Well, okay. Born in Florence, raised in Killen, and then during college, my parents moved closer into the city. Because so maybe we failed to mention this. Florence is the home of the University of North Alabama, which is where me and Zach got our degrees from, our educational degrees.
Go Vols.
What?
What?
Vols? They're Lions. Everybody wants to hear that.
Go Vols.
What is Vol? You talking about the Vols? Tennessee Vols?
Oh, is it Vol? I thought it was Vol.
Well, volunteer. It's short for volunteer.
You don't say volunteer?
No, you know what? On second thought, you're right. Vols. No, actually, this if we have any listeners from the state of Alabama, or preferably North Alabama, this will make you shut this podcast off. My dad once made the statement. Granted, he hated the fact he said this. But he was like, he did not understand why anything north of the Tennessee River was not Tennessee. Technically, where we're from, where we live now, is all north of the river. Oh, wait, no, I live south of the river, so I'm saved. You're north of the river.
I don't care.
Yeah, I really don't care either. But yeah, so, yeah. So I guess we would be Vols at that point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I could be a Vanderbilt fan.
You could be that too, but, why?
I don't know. Better school?
I do like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is nice. I've been to their stadium, watched the football game, watched them play Ole Miss. It's nice. It's a little tiny little fella, but I love it. Right there in the middle of downtown. Not in the middle of downtown, but it's close.
Isn't that in Nashville?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been to a more pretentious city in your entire life?
This episode is just a crap on city episode.
Hey, I don't care.
Yeah. Okay, me
It's
and
like you got country music and nothing else, and then somehow that makes you better than me. It's like, oh, actually, I live in Nashville.
Well, then too, they don't even make country music anymore, or what they pass as country music isn't real country music. Just saying. Look, what y'all gonna find out is me and Zach have very different viewpoints on cities.
Yeah, if it sucks, it sucks. And Nashville is one of those places that if you live there, you're just arrogant about it.
Give them your opinion on cities in general. What was it you want to say? Oh, hold on. Let me set the scene. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What you said about cities?
Maybe. I don't know.
Well,
I've said a lot of things.
You have.
I have varying opinions.
All right. I'm going to set the scene and maybe it'll jog your memory. Me and Zach were on a business trip in Denver, Colorado one time.
Mm-hmm.
Went to meet a client across the street from the client. The client's in downtown Denver. So across the street, where's, at Starbucks getting breakfast. It's me and Zach and one other coworker. Now, Zach is the oldest. What are you, 32?
I'm 32.
I'm 27. The other guy was maybe 25. Maybe 24, but I think he's 25. So I'm sitting in here, taking in the atmosphere and I'm not going to say culture. We'll save that for another topic. I was taking in the atmosphere of the place. Eating my bagel and looking at the passersby and, thinking, this is a nice place. I look over and Zach is just on his phone. Not even really working, just probably on Reddit or something. I don't know. He's just on his phone. I was like, why don't you put your phone down and take in the splendor of such a city? Which to where you say, every city's the same city.
Yep, that's about right. Every city is the same city, based on size. But ultimately, I can go to the middle of a downtown. I can throw you in the middle of any downtown, as long as you haven't been to the city and you know the specific landmarks. And they're not going to be any different from any other city. Period.
Okay.
It's true. It's true. All cities are ultimately the same at a certain point.
I would agree with you to a little extent that all cities are the same at a molecular level. They're all just concrete jungles with skyscrapers and overpriced lofts. But I think what separates it, it doesn't make any sense, I'm sorry. Usually that makes sense. What differentiates one city from another city isn't the city itself, but the activities outside the city. Like Denver, right? If you love the beach, you're not going to live in Denver. You're going to live in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Or Los Angeles. I don't know. San Francisco. Do they have? I don't
I
know.
mean, they're up against. I think they're both up against the coast.
All right.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. Yeah.
Charleston or New Orleans, sort of.
Yeah, but
if you like mud water.
Yeah. If you like to hike, then yeah, Denver's probably your better bet.
Or no, or like Kansas.
Or Salt Lake, Kansas. Get out of here. Salt Lake City, Boise, places like that. So I think that's what makes up cities. Now, if you truly like the city lifestyle, then just go to New York.
Yeah.
Chicago.
I like Chicago, actually. Chicago's better than New York, in my opinion.
I've never been to either. I've only been in the airport in Chicago.
Chicago just, it seems like it's I think they're a heartier people. They enjoy their food very similar to the way I do. New York, it's like, I don't know. It's okay, I guess, They'll always point to culture, but I mean, if your culture's like being a piece of trash and like, then, you'd love New York if that's your bag,
Yeah. You like Boston?
I love Boston. Boston's great.
But is it just like Nashville?
Yeah. Ultimately, yeah.
What's the difference? The people.
One's cold. Dirt.
Oh, you like the colder?
Well, I'm just saying Boston's cold. It's going to be a little colder.
No, what I was going to say is what's the difference for you?
In the cities?
Okay, hold on, wait. If all cities are essentially the same at their core, what makes you like one over the other?
Well, I can leave Boston and be in the Northeast, which I like. I prefer to like being in the middle of Tennessee.
So it sort of, I guess it sort of proves my point that what differentiates cities are the outside, what's around them.
Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that the city's center is not any different from any other city center.
You're right. But I guess I am part of the.
I'm a Southerner, so I like nice people.
Yes.
Which is why I prefer Chicago to, say, New York.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as well traveled as you. Maybe I'm just naive.
Nah, man, I don't think so. I just think that at the end of the day, a city's a city if you're in the center of it. It's the stuff that's around it and the people within it that makes it what it is.
Yeah.
So you can like or dislike something, but there's nothing to take in the city.
Yeah.
There's nothing to take in. It's a building.
Yeah.
And all buildings are going to be essentially the same. You're going to have a more historic building, which will be brick and mortar. And then as you start to weave out of the older city center, you're going to get to high-rise steel and glass or plexiglass, And but it's all the same. It's all the same. All buildings grow vertically in pretty much the same manner. And then it's what the people are that's going to develop it. But you've never said, like, I'm going to Nashville, right? And gone to the downtown and had a drink at a bar or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be the exact same experience in any city no matter what. But what differentiates Nashville from, say, Boston or New York or whatever is what you do in the outskirts. Because with the stories that you bring back from a city are typically the things you do on the fringe of the city.
Yes.
Like, no one's ever had, like, a weird experience in, like, some sort of theater troupe or, like, with a comedy show or a band experience or maybe, like, running amok in certain parts of the city. They're doing that on the fringe outskirts of the city. They're not doing that in the city center, in my opinion. I mean, like, you can do generic drunk people things in the city center, but you're not going to do that on the fringe, where you find the kind of weird, kind of ethnic neighborhoods or restaurants that are very specific to this culture, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to do that on the fringe. You never do that, like, near the, Bank America building.
Yeah. I mean, point in case, like New Orleans, like one of the best restaurants is not even in New Orleans.
Right. It's
Arno's.
Yeah, in Metairie.
Yeah. But
it's true. But I mean, like, you also don't hear people saying, like, yeah, I'm, go across Canal Street in the business district. That's where I have all my fun. No. Typically, if you're in New Orleans and you're experiencing New Orleans as the city, you're going to be in the French Quarter. That's the outskirts of the city. Like that, I mean, technically, people would find that, like, to be the kind of the focal point of the city. But, like, where the high rises or stuff at, no one's doing anything at those high rises. No one's doing anything across Canal Street.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You never cross Canal Street. You walk up to it. You run along it, then you turn back in.
Right. You're going to be. There's two places in New Orleans to run amok. There's the Garden District and the French Quarter. There is a great bar in the business district called Howlin' Wolf that I love, but like,
oh yeah,
that's one bar.
Yeah,
one.
Yeah, that place.
You know, and I think there's there's a really nice fine dining restaurant called August in the business district, and unless you're going to like the most prestigious 5-star restaurant, or you can find a kind of a quaint bar somewhere in there, you're not doing anything in those business districts. You're not.
Mm. But no, I mean, I think so. I think we do agree at some point. It's just, I still do, I guess, enjoy. Like I said, I didn't want to get into it. I think we've had this discussion before. You know, when people say culture and things like that, you know, I know it sort of irks you. And then my opinion has always been, I think people are just misusing the word. They shouldn't say culture, they should say atmosphere. They enjoy the atmosphere of the event that they're doing. Like you said, going to the opera, you don't understand the culture behind the opera. They like the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
That's
not universal. Remember that. Like, there are people who can speak Italian and can understand the opera as something beyond that.
We're talking about our friends.
What?
We're talking about our people we know.
Right, but typically people that we're rolling with, you're not generating any type of new understanding. You can expand your horizons and you can appreciate something for what it is. But the odds are, like, the thing that you're experiencing is really just it's a flex. It's a way to bring up something that someone else hasn't done in conversation. And I don't think that is relevant culturally, because the thing that drives culture now is the internet. And like, you can experience that in Hoboken or New York, or in, just the crappiest town, Hatton, Alabama, or Lawrence County. I mean,
oh God.
Well, yeah,
Don't bring that place up.
Well, I mean, there's got to be someone that probably enjoys the opera while they're lighting up their crack pipe in Hatton. So
you might be right. Like, well, see, okay, hold on. Now, this is where I will differ. Oh, okay. Again, my opinion is going off of how I feel. Now, if I went to the opera, right, it would not be to hold it over someone's head. I didn't say you said I did. I'm just saying I'm giving a differing opinion here. That would not be the reason. I would not necessarily go there to learn anything, because I can't learn anything because I don't know the language, depending on what they're singing. I would only be going for the atmosphere. And I say that to pull back on, cities are just brick and mortar and steel and glass. But the kind of atmosphere that you can get, like, maybe this is just, like I said, maybe it's just me being naive, but it'd be awesome. It would be nice to experience one day waking up in one of those high-rise apartments or something, walking down the stairs or taking the elevator down, walking into a coffee shop, getting some coffee, going to work, walking to work in one of those, high-rise buildings, then getting off, then going in a bar and having a smoke and a drink, and then go back to that apartment. That would be cool. I enjoy the atmosphere of that.
Do you think you could have a smoke in a city, at a bar?
What?
You said, and have a smoke and a drink. Do you think that place like that is going to allow you to smoke in the bar?
Well,
if you want to smoke in a bar, you are living in the right place, sir. Alabama's it's the last bastion of free smoking that you've got.
Guess I need to go back to Birmingham then. Or Huntsville, go to Huntsville. Okay, but you get the point. Mm-hmm. You can see the picture that I'm painting here. Mm-hmm. That is what I like.
It's monochrome, but I see it.
Yeah. You son of a... But, I get that way. Like, watching House of Cards, it makes me just want to go hang out in D.C. Just live there and walk around everywhere and lobby on the Hill, talk to all them scumbags, Like, that sounds fun. Mm-hmm. Or, I don't know.
What a place for vipers that is.
Yeah, you tell that. But then, also, I've been watching that Letterkenny show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I also would like to. It'd be fun to just live out in some rural town in Canada and just drive over to a bar every night.
Right.
Just, shoot the crap.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. Like there's a little pool hall in Florence that most people. Okay, for something we forgot to mention, Florence is like a college town competing with a retirement community. That's pretty much what it is. So you got a couple bars, but then there's one, and you got a couple bars in the downtown area, 2, 3, 4, something like that. But then there's this little pool hall closer into like not the business district, but the more commercial area, like where your Walmarts are,
right?
Your Hobby Lobbies and crap like that. There's this pool hall converted the movie theater. Nobody goes there. That like the people you would see in those college bars in downtown, you're not gonna see there. You see these old.
You see townies.
Yeah. And going in there and coming out and shooting pool, drinking cheap draft beer, and coming out smelling like cigarette smoke. That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's just cool.
I agree with that.
Yeah, but so like atmospheric environments, no matter, and they can be in every spectrum. They're just cool. They're cool stuff, and I think that's sometimes what the city draws to certain people.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, gotten down to the end of my bowl. What about you?
Yeah.
Into my second bowl. This is actually drawn on a little bit, you guys. So
it's a special show for a special day.
For a special day. You
Hopefully.
guys probably got an earful of stuff you didn't really want to get involved with.
Probably not. So our next episode will be a regular episode. We'll get back to normal. Unless you really love this, and
unless you really like trash talking.
Yeah. Call it gossip hour.
Maybe every once in a while we'll like throw in a little bit of our own personal opinions. Usually I try not to do that. Definitely want to stick away from politics. So, like I said earlier in the episode, like that's not really indicative of my opinion on the Clintons, but
yeah,
it was just a specific use of one's accent / one's diminishing accent. And the reason why I think that is, and that's political. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're good or bad. It's just I don't like that kind of rogue agent who tried to really go out and get their demographic on their side.
Yep. But yeah, so again, just to wrap it up, if y'all would like to participate into Bracketology 2019, just follow the link in the bio on the Instagram page. And then if you enjoyed this, just let us know. And we'll see y'all next week.
At the next Top of the Bowl.
This has been a Pipecast production.
And we hope to see you at the next Full Bowl.